The meaning of life. Hilário, a science teacher, was not happy with his profession because of his financial situation. Although his wife was of a simple nature, he was very consumerist. His money was always missing, and he devised ways to increase his income. One day, he heard that an acquaintance was selling a cigarette in a fine liquor store. With much insistence, he convinced his father-in-law to be his partner because he needed capital to take over the store. Even so, he continued to work as a teacher, but his dedication to teaching declined, and he became a relapsing teacher. Professor Júlio, the school principal, aware of this fact, spoke to him privately. "Hilário, you have had many absences and harmed your students." "Mr. Júlio, I presented a medical certificate." "That's fine. But the main reason for our conversation is that I've learned that you've opened a liquor and cigarette store. I imagine that you are a smoker and a drinker." "No, Professor Júlio, I don't smoke. I have asthma." "What about drinking?" "I drink, only socially." "Hilário, think about it. Everyone knows that these products from your store are very bad for your health. As a science teacher, it is important that you set a good example for your students." "Professor Júlio, I don't force anyone to buy drinks and cigarettes. The customers go because they want to. It is a business like any other. I can't adopt a holy life and let my family go through financial difficulties." Disappointed, the director assesses that there was no way he could talk Hilário out of that business. Hilário's business prospered, and he increasingly left teaching in the background. He begins to feel anguish in his chest and a depressive state that torments him. The teacher had constant nightmares and panicked about something he did not know the cause of. He went to several doctors and had therapy, but even so, his condition did not improve completely. One night, he had a strange dream. He saw himself in his store, saying goodbye to the last customer. Before closing the door to leave, he turns inside and sees many people drinking and smoking in great voluptuousness. He woke up confused, not understanding the meaning of the dream. For the rest of the night, he couldn't sleep. The images came intermittently in his mind. In the morning, he talked to his wife Laísa about the dream he had. She was worried, thinking it was a bad omen. That day, Hilário didn't have the courage to open the store. Tormented, he paced from one place to another, without peace. At night, he went to the school where he was teaching and sought out the principal to tell him about the dream and the depressive state he was in. Júlio is solicitous. "Hilário, I want you to see me now, not as Principal Júlio, but as someone who has been a scholar and supporter of the Spiritist doctrine for many years. Dreams are often warnings that are revealed to help us with something. Listen well. People who have been trapped in addiction, when they disincarnate, are trapped in a spiritual state of total distress and then seek out places and users of these products. If the person smokes or drinks too much, under the influence of an afflicted spirit, will consume twice as much, so that the disincarnate can satiate themselves with the energetic residues emanating from the smoke and alcohol. In addition, many illnesses can manifest in this life or the next life, stemming from persistent addictions. Professor Júlio, I am sorry, but I have an aversion to these matters. Nobody has ever proved that spirits exist. Even more, as you said, smoking and drinking. To me, this is ridiculous. There is only matter, something we can see and touch. My friend, I want you to know that I respect your opinion, even though I disagree with it. In any case, try to have motivation in life and peace of conscience. Fulfill your mission, which is one of the most noble, the art of teaching. He bids farewell to the principal and, though disconcerted, concluded his class. Back at home, he tells Laísa about the agony that continues. His wife says that she talked to her neighbor Eva about it, and she said that it was probably spiritual harassment. Hilário disagrees, irritated. Laísa, enough. I talked to the director a while ago, and he said the same thing. You know, I don't believe in this spirit nonsense. It's all a religious invention. As he lies down, Hilário can't seem to get to sleep. The agitation takes over his mind and multiple anxiety. Very early in the morning, he gets up, and since his store is not so far from home, he walks there. He was very depressed. On the way, very distracted, he bumps into Mrs. Eva, who was coming from the bakery. She doesn't mind and says good morning. Hilário just whispers and continues walking ahead. Eva is saddened and sympathizes because she understands that her neighbor was not doing well at all. She thinks about approaching him to help with something. However, an inner voice tells her that this was not the time. Hilário was still very incredulous about everything, but she would pray for him. So, Eva makes a prayerful thought to the Master, asking him to bless her neighbor so that he would open his heart and accept the help he so desperately needed. That afternoon, Hilário had a strong headache and returned home early, leaving the store with the assistant. He would not even be able to teach. He then makes a quick phone call to the director, notifying him of his absence. At home, he tries to rest, but can't. A disturbance comes into his mind. He decides to go to the garden to clear his mind, and there he feels very disturbed. And for a moment, he calls Laísa insistently. Help me, please, Laísa. I'm in panic. My head feels like it's going to explode. I don't know what to do. His wife tries to help him, but doesn't know how, until a voice calls out at the gate. It was Mrs. Eva, who had come to pay them a visit. Laísa opens the gate and quickly reports about her husband's condition. She approaches Hilário and asks if he would accept a pass. The professor was so downcast but he didn't say a word. He remained sad and depressed. With compassion, Mrs. Eva extends her hand towards the poor man. Closing her eyes, she prays to God. Lord Almighty, dignify me with the power to free Mr. Hilario from the influence of the spirit that is obsessing him. If it is in your design to put an end to this trial, grant me the grace to speak with authority and love to this spirit so that he moves away. In a moment, Hilario calms down and feels a state of peace. He doesn't say a word of thanks to Eva and goes to his room in search of restful sleep. Now, he dreams of his deceased grandfather, giving him the following guidance. Hilario, my dear, it is important that you close your store with these products that are harmful to health and that also attract spirits who have been addicted and who find energies from alcohol and smoking. Dedicate your life to your profession. Be a good teacher. Seek a greater meaning in your life. Hilario wakes up willing, but he tries to forget the dream because he thinks it was a figment of his imagination. After a few days, Liza gives him wonderful news. Darling, I'm expecting a baby. Hilario is euphoric and tells her, Honey, that's great. I always wanted to be a father. Just a few days later, Hilario has an argument with his father-in-law about business, and as a result, he resumes his depression and panic syndrome. Now, Liza insists that they go to the spiritual home together so that what happened will not happen again. He continues to deny the help of the benefactors and prefers to seek a clinic for hospitalization. Liza is disconcerted by Hilario's stubbornness, even more so knowing that she would need him a lot when her son is born. She then decides to go to the Spiritist Center and ask for protection for her husband while he is hospitalized at the clinic. Liza enters the meeting room and is told to write her husband's name in a notebook because he would be benefited and everything would probably improve through the mediumistic meeting that would take place in the next room. During the meeting, she listens to the explanation of a nice lady who talks about the principles of the Spiritist doctrine. Spiritism is a Christian doctrine where the paradigm is the Master Jesus. The basic principles are: Number 1. Existence of God. The universe is a creation of a wise and omnipotent being. Number 2. Immortality of the soul. The body is perishable, but the spirit has the divine essence and therefore we are immortal. Number 3. Reincarnation. Reincarnation is a perfect mechanism created by God for our evolutionary process, and it is the explanation for the inequality and misfortunes that happen to us. Number 4. Forgetfulness of the past. Forgetfulness of past lives is a gift from God, so that we can again live with people we have harmed and correct bad experiences. Number 5. Communicability of spirits. We are all incarnate or disincarnate spirits. The gift of communicability has always existed since the beginning of man on earth. After the explanation, the speaker invites those present to go into another room. There, a group dynamic is performed, approaching parts of the gospel, and afterwards, passes and fluidic water are given to the participants. At that moment, admitted in the clinic, Hilario feels well that seemed to come from heaven, and after a few days, he is discharged. It is recommended by the doctors that he regularly follows the prescribed medication and that he undergoes psychological treatment. He returns to the routine of the home, of running the store, and of his teaching activities. However, as a teacher, he was not keeping to his class schedules. He was always arriving late and leaving too early. His priority was the easy profit of the store. Even after Hilario's return from the clinic, Laísa continued to attend the Spiritist Center, and this made her more serene and with a better understanding of life and its evolutionary purpose. Hilario criticized her for this, but she continued with her determination to seek the enlightening knowledge of the Spiritist doctrine. On the eve of having her baby, she questioned Hilario. "My dear, you wouldn't be at all happy if our child, upon becoming an adult, smoked or was a fan of alcoholic beverages, would you?" "Laísa, I would be very sad if that happened. You know what happened a few days ago? 2 boys came into my store to buy vodka. I didn't make it easy for them. I asked them to show their ID cards because they looked like kids, but they proved they were 18 years old. They barely bought the drink and started to drink inside the store. Isn't this painful for your conscience, Hilario? There you go, repeating the same things that Director Júlio always tells me." The upset man leaves home and goes to open his store early. When he arrives at his destination, he again sees the 2 young men who are anxiously waiting for the store to open. For the first time, his conscience accuses him, yet he seeks to refute good intentions. He thinks, this is a problem for the parents of these young people, not mine. At night, he goes to his classes when he notices that one of his students had a strong cigarette smell. His conscience is on him once again, and he asks the boy to wait for him at the end of the class so that they can have a chat. "Leno, I can tell that you smoke from the smell that you exhale." "What about it, Professor? I don't smoke inside the classroom." "The point, Leno, is that you're not 18. The student interrupts with an ironic laugh. "Ah, Professor, aren't you ashamed to ask me that? You know what? My older classmates buy cigarettes and drinks at your store for the kids." The teacher remains silent without an answer, and the student walks away laughing. The next day was Saturday, and he closes his store early. When he arrives home, he finds Laísa leaving for the spiritist's house and gets upset. "What a thing, Laísa! I barely arrive and you leave, especially to a spiritist center." "Hilário, I'm about to give birth and I'll have to leave the spiritist meetings. So, I want to take advantage of the time before the birth of our little son. Come with me, Hilário. Let's go together." "Me? I told you I don't believe in such things." Laísa leaves to look for a taxi, and Hilário decides to take her by car because the weather was rainy. Once there, the professor stands in the parking lot of the spiritist's house waiting for his wife. At a certain moment, he decides to visit the place because it had an inviting garden. Hilário arrives on the balcony and sees the lecture hall, where he could hear an enthusiastic speaker. "My brothers, Jesus has always taught us the importance of giving meaning to life. We are immoral beings, and we live in order to evolve. We need to build the kingdom of God within our hearts. If we only think about the transitory values of the physical existence, such as money, power, beauty, fame, and prestige, sooner or later, suffering will be the means to redeem us from our mistakes. After all, what is the true meaning of our life? Remember the 3 R's: respect for oneself, respect for others, and respect for our actions. We are free to plant whatever we want, but God's justice will bring the exact harvest of what we sow. Remember, it is our character that will shape our destiny." Hilário reflects that the meaning of his life was not the best. He thinks about his son, who was to be born, and assesses how disappointed he would be if he were a young man avid to vice, like those who frequented his store. At the end of the lecture, he goes to meet Laísa, and the gentleman hands him a pamphlet with the following questions. "What is the role I play in this world? What legacy can I leave in this life? What can I improve to give a new meaning to my life?" As he reads these questions, Hilário's conscience indicts him. He could no longer continue with his store, he was sure. He leaves the room, thanking God for this enlightenment. He wanted to be a good father, a good husband, a good example to his students. He decided there, under the blessings of our Lord Jesus Christ, that he would be a better man. He would open his heart to change. He would follow a more honorable life. He would have a new meaning in his life.